Welcome to Dig Site 19, a chance to do the right thing. Let's head over to our timeline and see where we are today. So here we are at our timeline, and we were on Dig Site 18 last time, where the Israelites made a golden calf to worship and angered God. And then now we are on Dig Site 19, and they get a second chance. So let's go find out what Dr. Dig-a-Lot has discovered.
Video entry number 19. To be honest, I was pretty sad after reading the Bible story from Exodus 32. The Israelites got it all wrong. Canteen didn't want to keep reading Exodus, but I just had to know what was going to happen next. And you know what? It gets better. God gave the Israelites a second chance. Woohoo! I'm so glad God gives me a second chance when I disobey him. What a great God. He always provides.
God is gracious. So let's take a look in the suitcase to see what God did to show his grace to the Israelites. First of all, we have this chisel and a hammer. Okay. Then we have a proclamation. This lovely notebook with a pen. And last but not least, a pair of sunglasses. And we will find out what each of these represent in just a minute. It is now time for our X marks the spot for Dig Site 19. So go ahead and grab your notebooks and a pen and we will get started. The Lord told Moses, "Chisel out 2 stone tablets like the first ones, and I will write on them the words that were on the first tablets, which you broke." Moses was to go up to Mount Sinai. He was to present himself to the Lord. No one was to come with Moses or be seen anywhere on the mountain. Moses chiseled out 2 stone tablets like the first ones. He went up Mount Sinai early in the morning with the tablets. The Lord came down in the cloud and stood there with him and proclaimed his name, the Lord. The Lord passed in front of Moses. Now, Moses did not actually see physical features. He just experienced who God really is. And the Lord, he proclaimed he was compassionate, gracious, and slow to anger, abounding in love and faithfulness. So love here indicates long-term, reliable loyalty of one member of a covenant relationship to another. Maintaining love to thousands, and thousands is a figure of speech. It conveys the idea that God will remain loyal to the covenant keepers indefinitely. Forgiving wickedness, rebellion, and sin, not leaving the guilty unpunished. So the Lord promised to punish the guilty in each generation. And in this passage, he was clear and concise in stating his qualities and motives behind his actions. This also provided further insight into what it meant to be holy. Moses bowed to the ground at once and worshiped. "Lord," he said, "if I have found favor in your eyes, then let the Lord go with us." Moses asked the Lord to forgive their sin and take them as his inheritance. And so in other words, Moses asked Yahweh to consider Israel his firstborn son. This ties in with the idea that covenant relationships made the parties like family. The Lord said, "I am making a covenant with you. Before all your people, I will do wonders never before done." The Lord said, "The people you live among will see how awesome is the work that I, the Lord, will do for you." So Yahweh's intention to attract other nations to himself was unwavering. It was to be his glory, not Israel's. "Obey what I command you today. I will drive out before you the Amorites, the Canaanites, Hittites, Perizzites, Hivites, and Jebusites." So experiencing the blessings of the covenant hinged on obedience. "Be careful not to make a treaty with those who live in the land where you are going, or they will be a snare among you. So the word treaty is the same as a covenant. And if Israel made a covenant with another people, it would seem that Yahweh was unable to take care of them himself. It would also affirm the other people's gods and treat Yahweh as their peer. And in short, it would be an act of distrust and disbelief. Break down their altars, smash their sacred stones, and cut down their Asherah poles. No idolatry was to be tolerated. Israel would only be prepared to welcome converts if they were theologically and behaviorally pure themselves. Do not worship any other god, for the Lord, whose name is jealous, is a jealous God. 6 days you shall labor, but on the 7th day you shall rest. So work in an emergency was allowable, but maximizing one's crops or earnings did not count as an emergency. Celebrate the Festival of Weeks with the first fruits of the wheat harvest and the Festival of Ingathering in the turn of the year. So times for celebration and enjoyment of his gifts were very important to the Lord. The Lord had Moses write down his instructions for the covenant he made with Moses and Israel. Moses was there with the Lord 40 days and 40 nights without eating bread or drinking water. The Lord wrote on the tablets the words of the covenant, the 10 Commandments. Moses was not aware that his face was radiant because he had spoken with the Lord. So Aaron and all the Israelites were afraid to come near him. So Moses' shining face reflected Yahweh's glory and was evidence for his return and on Moses' authority. All the Israelites came near him, and he gave them all the commands the Lord had given him on Mount Sinai. So let's go over the main points of the story. So the first one has to do with the hammer and the chisel. God told Moses to chisel out 2 new stone tablets and come up on the mountain on Mount Sinai again. So Moses had to chisel out those stone tablets that he had broken. He had to make a new set. So that's what the hammer and chisel for. Next we have our proclamation. And God proclaimed to Moses his name and what kind of God he is. Moses worshiped the Lord. So the proclamation is all the things that God said he is, and his name, and what kind of God he is. And then our paper and pen here. The Lord repeated the covenant he had made with the Israelites. Moses wrote down all of God's commands. God again wrote the 10 Commandments on the tablets of stone. So Moses wrote instructions down, and then God wrote the 10 Commandments on the stone tablets. And finally, we have our sunglasses. So when Moses came back down to camp, his face was so radiant from being in God's presence that Aaron and the Israelites were afraid of him. So his face was bright. He'd been in God's presence and he was shining. And so he was kind of scary looking to the Israelites. They didn't know how to handle that. And those are our main points. So I have just a few discussion questions for you today. And the first one talks about the stone tablets. So Moses had to chisel out a new set of tablets, and he took them up Mount Sinai. What would God do with the new tablets? Well, he would rewrite the words that were on the broken tablets. So he's rewriting all of the stuff. What did the Lord do for Moses when he went up the mountain? Well, if you remember, he came down in a cloud and he stood with him and proclaimed his name and proclaimed what he is like. What are 2 of the 5 commands the Lord gave Moses? Well, he said to obey him, make no treaties with people of the land, worship no other gods, and rest on the Sabbath, and celebrate the Festival of Weeks. So there were more than 2, but there were 5. But if you can remember 2, that would be awesome. And our last question today, what did the Lord write on the tablets? That's right, he wrote the 10 Commandments. All right, so now it is time to update our map. So turn to the back of your workbook and we will head over to our map so you can see which one we are drawing a line to today. Here we are at our map, and we are so close to the finish line. Today's square has Moses on it, and you're going to be drawing a line up to Mount Sinai. It is now time for our Dig Site 19 memory verse, and this comes from Exodus chapter 34, verse 6. And he passed in front of Moses, proclaiming, the Lord, the compassionate and gracious God, slow to anger, abounding in love and faithfulness. Let's say that together. Exodus 34, 6. And he passed in front of Moses, proclaiming, the Lord, the compassionate and gracious God, slow to anger, abounding in love and faithfulness. So the truth that we want to take from this dig site today is that God forgave his people's sin. Did the Israelites deserve a second chance? I mean, they really messed up. They disobeyed the Lord. Did you notice that the Lord's response, though? Yes, he held them accountable for their sin, and they did not get away with what they did, but he also forgave them. And that's not all. He didn't even reject them. They were still his treasured people after all they had done. And this is really, really good to know. Sometimes we find it really hard to obey, especially when people around us are doing wrong things. And this dig site shows us that God hates sin. But if we disobey the Lord and then repent, he is still our gracious, loving, and forgiving God. Well, that concludes Dig Site 19. It is a great time for you to go out and do your Kahoot quiz for Dig Site 19 and to review the memory verse.